A framework for impact through design. And before this conversation, Milan asked me for a case study. Yes, I have one in mind, which I will allude to time and time again. Unfortunately, in my case, all the good case studies are under NDA, and all the public case studies I could share with you are rather boring. So I cannot show you actual things we did, but I will tell you about it. And I, one of the best case studies I did at one point, I was doing user research with royal people. So at one point, I was talking to His Royal Majesty of, let's leave that out, and explaining him over the phone how to install Google Chrome on his laptop. That was fun. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you about it. Um, but I can tell you about what I'm trying to do. And the topic is a framework for impact through design. The topic could also have been Holger running against walls. And I'll tell you why. And I'll show you something rather embarrassing. This is me on the right hand side, and on the left hand side, this is me 20 years ago. This is one of the earliest photos I found of me speaking at a conference. I think in 2000 or 2001 this happened. One of the earliest ones I went to. And I always joked about I'm doing this for almost 20 years. Then at one point I realized, oh, it is actually 20 years. Now I realize I'm rounding up when I say 20 years. So 20 years has been a lot. And I worked my way always up the food chain, if you will. I started as a designer doing development stuff, front-end development. Then I got designs. Hey, we need to implement this. And I figured the designs are bad. I need to do that. Then I was working at a designer. Then I got concepts like wireframes. And I figured I need to be that person doing that. So I worked as a user experience designer for many, many years. And then I figured, even at that stage, somebody else has made some form of decision even before that. I need to be that person. So I work more on a strategic level with companies or with organizations. So this is what I do now. I call myself a strategic designer. And my problem has always been, how do you explain this? How do you tell people? They ask me, hey, what do you do? What do you say then? And I've come up with a few ideas. So far, I haven't found the perfect one, but I'm getting closer and closer all the time. So explanation number one. This is what I started with. What is design? I say the expression of an idea, very similar to this Jared Spool thing, the rendering of intent, just it leaves out the intent part. So design is the expression of an idea. What is strategy? Strategy is a plan to achieve a goal. And sometimes I make little games with managers where I ask them, hey, you define what is a strategy. You wouldn't believe how they struggle with that. That's always fun. So I give them these two explanations, the expression of an idea and a plan to achieve a goal. And there's two things in each sentence. This is why I like these so much. The expression of an idea, in order to do design, you need to have an idea in the first place, and then you need to express it. So already these two things, and designers can do both. If you just express something without an idea, you do anything. If you just have an idea and you don't express it, you're building castles in the sky, or however you want to call this. This is not design. You need to have an idea and you need to express this. What is a strategy? A plan to achieve a goal. So you need to have a goal, and from this goal, you can create a plan how to achieve it, how to reach your goal. And again, you need both in order to form a strategy. So with this in mind, I started thinking, and I was like, okay, how can we connect this? Then I was pretending I'm doing math all of a sudden. So the cross product of, I arrived at this: a plan to achieve an idea and the expression of a goal. And this has always helped me. As soon as I arrived with managers or whoever I was working with, as soon as we came to this point, light bulbs went off. Okay, a plan to achieve an idea. If we don't have an idea yet, we do have a plan, or we know how to build a plan in order to get to this idea. The expression of a goal, once we do have a goal, how does this express itself? In our company, in our people, in our processes, in our product, for our customers, and all these things around it. This was great. A plan to achieve an idea, the expression of a goal. This has always helped me until people started asking, okay, what exactly are you doing? Then it broke down again. Damn it. I was working earlier this year with a large insurance company. We build a product, and usually product development for them takes 1.5 years, 18 months. And I was like, let's do this in 6 months. And they were like, are you crazy? Have you done this before? And I'm like, no. Well, I have done product development before, not for insurance companies, with all the calculations and regulations and all this. Still, I told them, we can create an idea because we know how to do a plan to achieve an idea. And also, once we have a goal based on this idea, we know how to express this. Everything else will fall into place. So I tried a second explanation with this in mind. If you do this, you need product strategy and organizational strategy at the same time. Sometimes I tell people I work at the intersection of product strategy and organizational strategy. Product strategy is innovation, organizational strategy, transformation, once you integrate this innovation into your organization. And you need both, otherwise it won't work. You can do the best product you can. If the organization is not ready, it will die. If you just changing the organization and never change the product, it will fail. You need to do both at the same time. And if you're by the way, if you're a service designer, feel free to think of service strategy or whatever strategy. Product strategy is the term I use, the thing that the organization brings to market, and organization strategy, the thing the organization does internally. So you need both of these. So think back to strategy, a plan to achieve a goal. This is what I then tell people. I draw this little diagram. We have the product and the organization. For each of these two, we need a goal and we need a plan. And if we don't have a goal yet, that's fine. We need a plan. How will we create this goal? So at any given point in a project, I need an answer to all of these 4 little squares. That's my job. And with that explanation, it works. And then they ask, okay, what exactly are we doing here? So I tell them this. You all know variations of this diagram. You need a purpose on top, be it a mission, a vision, or a target, or whatever. Then you need a strategy. How do you go about achieving this purpose? How do you go about fulfilling this purpose? And the lowest part, the tactics, or sometimes people call it operations, or whatever you may want to call it. What do you actually do in order to implement the strategy, in order to fulfill your purpose? So when you take this together, on these 3 levels, we work. I work with managers and with teams in organizations. And at each of these levels, I have these 4 quadrants. I need to fill in these 4 quadrants. At each level, I need to know what is the goal for the product, what is the goal for the organization, and what is the plan to reach the goal for the product, what is the plan to reach the goal for the organization. Then more light bulbs go up, but they still ask, okay, how will we achieve this? How do we get to a purpose? How do we get to strategy? How do we get to tactics? So I tell them another thing. Everybody I work with has a goal in mind, a target goal, and that's fine. They sometimes have preconceived ideas they want to achieve. Sometimes I help them get there. But the more interesting part for me is the gap between the status quo and the target. Because if you just think about the target, our customer service needs to be the quickest in the industry, for example, and you leave out the status quo will tell you sometimes you already have parts of your goal already. Don't leave out, if your goal is the customer service needs to be the quickest in the industry, don't leave out that maybe it is already somewhat fast. Maybe you already have parts of it which you can build on in whatever the goal is. So I'm less interested in the target goal. I'm more interested, once we have this, in the gap in between the status quo and the target goal. And I make them define this. I make people analyze this. What do we already have? What do we want to be or achieve? And what are the parts missing in between? And then you can ask questions. Why do we need to close this gap? Which will bring you to your purpose. What will close this gap? Which will bring you to the strategy. What do we need to build in order to close this gap? And how will we close this gap? Which will lead you to tactics. So I put all these together. We start with a gap. We ask why, what, how, which brings us to purpose, strategy, tactics, which in turn will help us define these 4 quadrants. For the product and the organization, what is the plan and the goal on each of these steps? This was going great. I was doing this. I was explaining this with managers. This was great until this. You probably all know this person. This is Mike Tyson. And one of my favorite quotes he ever said was, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And this happened to me. I had a plan and then I got punched in the face. What happened? I was working at a project, not the insurance one, an earlier project. We were building a product and the development department was not getting it done. This was bad. They were not bad people. It's just they promised something they couldn't deliver right away. So we had to realign things. We had to realign the schedule, most of it. And then the product manager was like, well, we launch October 1st, and it was already September. And I told him, I don't see this. I don't see us being ready October 1st. This is not happening. And he was like, you don't get it. We launch October 1st. And it took me a while until he finally admitted why we are supposed to launch October 1st. Because it was his personal goals. He had in his personal goals with his manager, with his boss, he promised her we will launch October 1st. And if he doesn't hit this milestone, he will not get his yearly bonus, and then he won't go on winter vacation with his family. That's bad. And this is something strategic designers call the dark matter. You can, the matter you're working on is fine, but then there's always the dark matter, things people don't tell you right away. And things in your organization which you don't know right away, but you need to be aware of it. Otherwise, you will run into these things. Otherwise, you can have the best plan in the world, but you will get punched in the face. So I thought about this. If this is my project, and somebody earlier mentioned second order effects, great. This is exactly this idea. This is my project. What are the second order effects if we do this project? What happens with the people? What happens with the product? What happens with the process? What happens with the performance? And if you think this through, and I make managers do workshops like this. I draw this diagram like a flower. Usually it's these 4 things: people, product, process, performance. Sometimes it's other factors, and I guide them through an exercise. Let's define the second order effects. So they realize if we are supposed to make customer service quicker, maybe our people will get tired, or whatever the consequences might be. If we are to increase our performance, like our revenue or customer sign up, maybe we need to have more servers if it's a software application, for example. Stuff like this. And this helps uncover this dark matter, which was rather successful, which lead me then to turn this whole thing around. So whenever I start a project now, I first talk to them about the second order effects. What do you want to have in the end as an effect on your people, on your product, on your process, on your performance? Start there and then work our way inwards. If these are the second order effects we need to achieve, what is the project itself? What do we need to do there so that we can actually achieve these second order effects? Something people don't really think about. Second order effects are usually things you realize afterwards. I'm missing my family vacation, I don't get my yearly bonus, whatever it is. This is my way of uncovering all this. So Uh, Other people might call this system thinking, which is also great. Everything is a system, if you will, and you're navigating the system. So be aware of that. Which brings me to my third explanation. This is what so far most managers understood and what stuck so far the most. Feel free to steal this if it helps. Turn possibilities into a goal. Help people achieve. Help people through the process how to define a goal. Once you have this goal, turn goals into a plan. So having a goal is one thing, but you need to know how to go about this, and you're all capable of doing this, of course. And then the system aspect, turn plans into a system. And this explanation is what I tell managers, and this is when they realize, hey, I'm a number person, I have other things on my plate. Every designer can guide a process to turn possibilities into a goal, into a plan, into a system. That's what we do. That's what we do with the users in the end, the customers of our customers. Anyways, we can do this here as well, and that's where managers start. Okay, this is a way of going about it, which actually helps, and this is a good reason to hire a designer for me and to give them quote unquote a seat at the table. And this is actually, once designers get a seat at the table, this is something they can actually do, where they can actually have an impact on the project, or even better, on the whole organization. So that's the very quick, the 20 minutes version. I promise Guru, I have a clock here. I promise her I'll keep my 20 minutes. Of course, there's lots more detail. If you want, feel free to ask me later, and let's have a chat, or on the Miro board, or whatever. So far from me, thank you for listening. Thank you for having me. Again, I'm Holger Eggert. This is my email address. This is my Twitter. I would love to be a friend on Twitter or LinkedIn or wherever you want to meet up. That's a framework for impact through design in the very quick 20 minutes version. Thank you so much. Yes. Okay. I promised I'd bring my guitar. And if you remember, in Prague, I sang songs about failed innovation labs. So I thought, what do I do maybe today? I have one short thing and then one rather then a better thing. The short thing is about failed projects. Tale as old as time, bad as it can be, barely out the gates, then the project fails unexpectedly. 1,000 variants of bad experience, tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme, designer and the beast. Yay! Oh, someone's clapping. Thank you very much. Woohoo! Guru, how's it going?
It's going super well.
Great. I could play another song, but maybe we skip that if there are questions.
I want one more. One more.
Yeah?
One more.
Okay. I don't have another funny song, but I think I said this earlier. I do write my own songs, and you find some of them on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever. And I loved the keynote today about the leaving part and saying goodbye and running things down and everything. And I once wrote a song in that vein, which I'm gonna sing for you now. The lyrics may feel depressing at first, but then again, I think this is a very good song, and it's actually a love song, but so be it. This is called Way Back Home. You spit dreams for nothing. You axe all you take, and falling off brought little pain. It's all yours anyway. Nobody can reach you, nobody can hold you. Twitch a little maybe for a chance to be. Nobody can hear you, nobody can know you. I try to see. I'm gonna take my way back home again. I'm gonna take my way back home again. The last wall in my head, I fast forward and leave. Cold waters are black, I don't want this peace, not anymore. Nobody can reach me, nobody can hold me. I twitch a little maybe for a chance to be. Nobody can hear me, nobody can know me. I try to see. I'm gonna take my way back home again. I'm gonna take my way back home again.
Oh my
Thank you so much.
It is we who are thanking Holger. Thank you so much for enriching our day in such a beautiful, beautiful way. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure, musically and creatively and intellectually, to listen to you. And we do. It was an obvious trade-off. I would rather have less time for questions and more time for music. There are some questions that I would like to connect to before we round off.
Yes.
Let's see. I just need to kind of wave through all the hearts and applause in the chat.
Oh.
Let's see here. Here is a question about examples. So it's a question from Marion. She asks, could you share a story of a failed project based on tangible examples?
The one I said earlier about the project where the product manager insisted on the deadline is a very failed example. Usually when this process fails is when people have the wrong idea to start with. So I was working with a company once. They built trash compactors, and they had a product idea based on trash compactors, and they wanted to put this idea to market. We started the project, and rather through the project, we figured out nobody needs this idea in the first place, but they were hell-bent on bringing this idea to market. So you could say we failed, where I failed even more was making them trust the process, because I talked to them. If this is the idea you have, let's talk about how to shape this idea with user research and everything, so that we can make something that customers actually want to have and that will be successful in the market. They were hell bent on sticking to their one idea. In the end, this is one project where I said, "Hey, I cannot help you anymore. Maybe you're on your own. I'm lost." If they're not willing to go along with the process, that's not helpful.
Oh, that's great. It's great to say. I mean, those failures or are just learning opportunities in disguise, right? And if you don't pause and learn from them, it is in vain, right?
Of course. What I learned from that for myself is I need to make sure people trust this process from the start. So I do little exercises in the beginning, like doing user research, and I tell them to do user research in 1 hour. I talked about this last year, and put it on a poster, and I explain to them, we do little drawing workshops, how to draw posters. So for the user research, but even more so, they trust this process and they trust their abilities to follow this process along. So I started putting in these little exercises in the beginning, so that they trust the process, so that by the time we have a crisis like this, they hopefully trust the process more and trust themselves, so that they can get through a crisis like this even still.
That's great. I mean, Joanne has a beautiful question about how to balance multitude of dark matters or second order effects in organizations. It's a stunning question, and we don't have the time. I hope that I really hope that you will have the chance to dive into the chat, Holger, right now, because there's there's so much love for you there.
Thank you so much.
Both creatively and intellectually. So please carry on the conversation on Slack or on the chat, wherever you feel like it. Thank you so much, Holger. I wish I could be at a bistro singing with you, but that's going to be in Stockholm next year. So thank you.
Maybe next year. Great. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.